My sister-in-law tried to send me to a psychiatric hospital. They called me crazy and wanted to take away my house and savings. I exposed their conspiracy. This is a Channel Sarah Stories. Everyday incredible stories about strong women with difficult lives are posted here. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you are interested in such stories, subscribe to my channel and enjoy the exciting stories. And write in the comments which country and city you are watching this video from. I am very interested in that. The first lie arrived in a tidy voice and a white smile. Mrs. Walsh, we've had reports you're confused and possibly unsafe, the officer said. Standing on my front stoop, cruiser lights washing my hydrangeas the color of a cheap nightclub. Behind him, Jennifer tilted her head at me. My son's wife, tidy as a receipt, voice sweetened like tea you can't swallow. We're just worried, Margaret. You've been forgetting appointments. You left the stove on. You told the pharmacist the wrong dose. I had turned the stove off. I had never told the pharmacist anything I couldn't prove twice. But I also knew the law likes order and order likes paperwork, and Jennifer had brought plenty, a stack of concerns, a business card for Dr. Brian Cooper, and a printed form that said, temporary wellness check. I kept my hand steady and my mouth polite and the phone in my robe pocket, a little red light blinking as it recorded every syllable. Dr. Cooper is not my physician, I told the officer. He has never seen me for a single visit. If he says otherwise, I'd like to hear the date, time, and billing code. The officer's eyes flicked to Jennifer, then back to me. Her smile held. She's been forgetful, Jennifer said, as if offering a medical diagnosis. Danny is doing everything he can, but we need to think about next steps. Daniel, my son, who once cried when a June beetle died on the porch and made me bury it with a leaf. He wasn't here. He'd let his wife make the call. That told me two things, that he was a coward tonight, and that someone had handed him a story so polished he could see himself in it. Mrs. Walsh, the officer said, do you mind stepping outside? I do, I said, and stepped inside instead. If you come in, you'll be recorded. If you stay out, you'll be recorded. Either way, you'll be recorded. Would you like coffee? The officer almost smiled. Jennifer did not. The red light in my pocket kept blinking, patient as weather. When they left, empty hands, fuller doubts, I poured the coffee anyway and sat at the kitchen table with the hum of the refrigerator and the soft pulse of adrenaline's retreat. My late husband used to say that people tell you who they are when they're sure you can't hear them. Tonight, they'd spoken loud enough for the begonias down the block. If they wanted a paper trail, I'd give them a tape trail. At 2 a.m., I played the recording back, wrote a neat transcript, and emailed it to myself, my lawyer friend from church, and because I have learned to live in the century we got rather than the one I miss, an encrypted backup service with a funny name that promises to bury your secrets like treasure. Then I slept. Not long, but well. By morning, doubt knocked again, this time wearing cologne and a suit. Dr. Cooper, he said, shaking my hand without offering identification. We spoke by phone last month. No, I said. We did not. Well, I spoke with your daughter-in-law. Then let's be honest about who your patient is, I said, and watched his eyes do a small, guilty dance. He started talking about concern for capacity and age-related changes. I asked for his charting notes, dates of prior sessions, cognitive screen scores, and the name of his supervising physician. He offered a brochure. I offered the door. When it closed, I rested my forehead against the wood and let the old anger surface. Anger with dust on it, anger I'd filed under family and marriage and things you swallow so others can breathe. I am 68. I have ironed too many shirts and baked too many casseroles to pretend I cannot still read my own name on a bottle. The truth wasn't complicated. Someone wanted my signature. Someone wanted my house's bones. Someone had decided that grandmother meant soft target. Not this grandmother, I told the door, and the door believed me. That afternoon, Agent Sarah Mitchell from the FBI called, her voice plain as paper. Mrs. Walsh, a community officer, forwarded a report. There's a pattern we're tracking. Coaches, consultants, sometimes a physician, working to move assets out of seniors' names. We'd like to speak. Only if you want to. I do, I said. And I want to speak plainly. We prefer that, she said. So did I. So I made a list. Names, dates, strange phone calls, the time Jennifer helped me set up online banking after George died. The evening Daniel set a power of attorney form on my table just in case. The 3 local widowers who had signed things and moved away. Their houses emptied before their mail stopped. It was a neat list. It was not long. It did not need to be. By dusk, the sky wore the color of tin, and the streetlights came on with the prim reluctance of people who don't like their job. I stood in the bay window, watched my reflection float among the maples, and said out loud what I had learned. Love and trust are cousins, but not twins. You can love someone and still trust your records more than their story. The blinking red light on my recorder had turned solid. The file was saved. So was I. Tomorrow, I would start the part of my life where I was no longer polite about staying alive. Agent Mitchell arrived without a flourish. Dark slacks, flat shoes, a ring with a stone so small it looked like a promise kept. With her was Detective Daryl Lewis, who took notes with the tidy speed of a man who has learned that details run away when you shout at them. We'll start with what you have, Mitchell said. I slid over the flash drive and a folder I had labeled in tidy block letters, Jennifer. On top, a call log showing 14 calls from her to a number listed to Kellerman Behavioral Associates. Under that, a photo of Dr. Brian Cooper's office door with a temporary license taped crookedly in the window. The state's online database showed his medical license reinstated 6 months ago after a disciplinary suspension. On the bottom, a list of names: Robert Parker, Carlos Martinez, William Thompson. Men from 3 different neighborhoods whose wills were amended within weeks of meeting a consultant and who died within months. Each left a newly created trust, administered by the same small firm, all with the same out-of-state P.O. box. Mitchell didn't interrupt. She just turned pages, that small stone on her hand catching light like a signal fire. How did you get the will data? She asked. Public records, I said. I used to teach 5th graders how to find credible sources. It appears the lesson stuck with at least one of us. She smiled, quick, approving gone. And your son? Daniel believed her, I said, and swallowed the bitterness. Belief is not a crime, but it can be a weapon if someone else aims it. Detective Lewis cleared his throat. We've seen a structure like this before, he said. A physician to manufacture cognitive concerns, a financial protector to offer a safe harbor account, and an attorney to bless it all. They like widows with intact credit and a recent death in the family. Softness around the edges. I am not soft, I said. We've noticed, Mitchell said, and laid down a glossy business card. Robert Davidson, CFP. A photo of a trustworthy chin. A tagline about safeguarding legacies. You've had contact? An email, I said, sliding my phone across. Heard about the unfortunate family tensions. Happy to help you secure your assets temporarily while things calm down. Fully insured. Low fee structure. We can finalize by Friday. Friday is always their favorite day, Mitchell said. Courts close and victims spend the weekend believing they did the prudent thing. What do you want me to do? I asked. She met my eyes. If you're willing, let him come. Let us wire your house. Ask every question you wish. And don't sign anything. We'll be parked where you can't see us, and you will never be alone. The sentence balanced exactly between protection and respect. I could have cried. I did not. I'll bake a cake, I said instead. Predators never expect buttercream. We set the time for Thursday at 10. In the 36 hours between, I called Daniel. He answered on the second ring, guilt all the way down to his hello. Mom, Listen, I said. Tonight I will say a hard thing simply, and tomorrow I may soften it. Your wife is dangerous. I have proof. When this is over, I will still be your mother. What you are to me after that depends on you. He breathed like someone remembering how. I didn't know, he said. I should have. You should have asked, I said. That would have been enough. He promised to come by after work. I promised to still be here. When Robert Davidson arrived, he wore a navy suit and a tie the color of expensive water. He called me Margaret, with the tone of a man who has done a unit on empathy in a weekend course. He placed a leather folio on my coffee table and fanned out documents the way a magician fans cards before making you pick the queen. Just some temporary instruments, he said. A limited power of attorney so I can move assets into a protected account. A physician's letter confirming you benefit from minimal assistance with complex financial tasks, and a custodial agreement with my firm. Fully reversible at any time. Signed by whom? I asked, tapping the physician's letter. Dr. Helen Curtis, he said, and waited for my reaction like a salesman timing a punchline. I'd like to call her, I said. I'm afraid confidentiality does not prevent you from dialing and handing me the phone, I said, and smiled like a woman offering tea. He hesitated, then produced a number. It rang once, twice, then went to a voicemail message, so generic it might as well have been a dial tone. I left a pleasant message asking for a callback and set the phone down between us like a tiny, ringing moral. And how did Dr. Curtis learn I confused my pharmacist? I asked. Davidson blinked. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, I never told a physician that story because it never happened. And yet here it is, narrated in prose. So either my pharmacist moonlights as a novelist or your doctor invents anecdotes on retainer. He made a small, regretful face practiced on a mirror. Families worry, Margaret. They share. It can get messy. Our work is to lower the temperature. I prefer to lower the volume, I said, and glanced at the front window where a white van parked discreetly across the street reflected a square of sky. Shall we continue? We did. He pointed to clauses. I pointed to gaps. He called what he offered protection. I called it by its first name, possession. When he tried to move me along with a warm chuckle, we can always change the details later. I took a pen and circled the clause that would hand him my accounts and my breath in one signature. Later is how you starve a person, I said. No. His smile frayed. There is some urgency, he said softly. Your daughter-in-law tells me there have been episodes. The court will appreciate that you acted prudently. The court will appreciate that I keep receipts, I said. He sat back. His eyes did a new calculation. Men like him love two games, chess and chicken. He had expected me to be a pawn and a hen. I was neither. Mr. Davidson, I said, and folded my hands over the printed lies. I've learned something. Paper tigers can be burned, but sometimes it's more useful to let them roar into a microphone. On cue, the doorbell chimed, two quick notes like a held breath snapping. I didn't move. The kitchen door opened. Footsteps. Agent Mitchell's voice in my hallway, calm as an oath. When she stepped into the room, her badge put a new weather in the air. Robert Davidson, she said, you're under arrest for wire fraud, attempted exploitation of an elderly person, conspiracy, and about a dozen other things I will enjoy listing at the station. Please place your hands where I can see them. For a blink, I watched him consider whether his smile could stop gravity. Then he saw Detective Lewis behind her and the two uniformed officers on my lawn, and the tiny red light on the bookshelf camera pulsing its patient, legal heartbeat. He put his hands up and sighed and told me, like a man who needs to win even the conversation that will undo him, you have no idea what you've done. I do, I said. I made cake. Mitchell smiled. She didn't eat any, not then. But later, when the house had my quiet again, there was a single forked dent in the frosting. It looked like respect. By evening, my living room looked like a seminar in consequences. Plastic evidence bags, the softened thud of boots on old floors, the sweet burnt smell of coffee too long on the burner. Agent Mitchell sat with me at the kitchen table and opened a file the size of a winter Sunday newspaper. Here's the skeleton, she said, sliding pages toward me. Coordinator, Dr. Patricia Kellerman, MD, board-certified geriatrician. Her clinic's motto is compassion in action. Her action is sorting seniors by net worth. Field physician, Brian Cooper, license reinstated after a suspension for chart irregularities. He ghostwrites capacity, concerns that don't exist. Facilitators, a ring of advisors, Davidson here is one, who set up temporary shelters for assets that never find their way home. Legal cover, two lawyers who file emergency guardianships based on those concerns. They prefer Fridays. Fridays, I said. The day Prudence takes a nap. Mitchell nodded. 15 states. At least 50 million moved. 200 elders forced into lockdown care out of state. We've identified 37 victims so far. Your file, she tapped a manila folder with my name, was in a banker's box in Davidson's office. Photos of your house, bank summaries, copies of your prescriptions, notes about your church. Someone inside your medical network sold a data packet. My stomach chilled, a clean, metallic feeling. Privacy is a door. Money can buy the hinges. Where is Dr. Kellerman? I asked. Traveling, Mitchell said. But the net is closing. Davidson gave us 3 burner numbers and an encrypted chat we've already cracked. Your daughter-in-law shows up here. She slid over a printed thread of text between Jennifer and Cooper. Need letter by Thursday. Something that sounds clinical, but vague. She's slipping. The sun is on board if we push. Jay. I did not cry. I measured my breath and found it sufficient. What about Daniel? I asked. Mitchell's eyes softened. He touched the edges, but we see no evidence he knew the whole. That doesn't erase the hurt. But it matters. It mattered to me. I had kept a room in my heart for him, even as I had locked the doors. Now a key rattled uncertainly in the hall. Tomorrow, Mitchell went on, we'll unspool the rest. But I wanted you to know tonight, your recordings gave us probable cause. Your questions gave us a map. You'll arrest Jennifer? I asked. When we can do it clean, she said. No one runs. No one gets to call this a misunderstanding. That night, the house learned new sleep. Gus, my dog, snored by the bay window as if his ribs kept time with the universe. I checked the front lock twice, then a third time, and finally decided the door could be trusted to do its job. In the morning, Daniel stood on my porch with tulips and the face of a man who had learned something the hard way. Can I come in? He asked. You may, I said, and let him. We sat at the table we've used for birthdays and taxes and once, long ago, for painting dinosaurs on a science fair poster with too much glue. He held the flowers like a man holding a steering wheel through ice. I thought we were helping you, he said finally, voice rough. Jen said it was just a safety net, that it was reversible, that Cooper was a formality. And you believed her, I said, which is a mercy and a liability. He flinched a little, then nodded. I should have asked you. I should have asked more questions. I should have noticed that every solution involved you signing something and them getting paid. You were grieving too, I said, and felt the old tenderness arrive. Thin, careful, real. Grief makes bargains it later regrets. He looked up. Where does this leave us? On a road neither of us asked for, I said. If you walk it with your eyes open, I'll walk it with you. If you don't, I'll walk it without you. He nodded. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was direction. By noon, Agent Mitchell called to say the first wave of arrests had landed. Cooper, a lawyer in Tampa, an admin who thought shredders could eat ethics. Jennifer was at her co-working space, posting a photo of a latte with a caption about hustle. They took her gently, because gentleness hurts worse when you know you've earned roughness. The news hit before dinner. My phone trembled on the counter, friends calling, neighbors texting words like stunned, proud, and about time. A reporter left a message I deleted halfway through. I do not explain my life to people who sell advertisements around it. When the house quieted, I stood in the doorway to the room where George used to read the sports page and pretend not to fall asleep. The light at that hour turns our street the color of a memory. I put my palm on the doorframe and told him what I tell him on days. I do not flinch. I am still here. I am not small. And I am buying better ammunition for the stapler. On the hall table, the tulips opened their throats. Their color was ridiculous. Their honesty was not. Courtrooms have their own climate. The air sits heavy with other people's breath, and the fluorescent lights make everyone look a little less brave. I wore my navy dress, the one with the hidden pocket where a person can keep a cough drop or a promise. Daniel sat 2 benches behind me, a row of space between us and the family of Robert Davidson, who examined the carpet as if it might argue for him. When they brought Jennifer in, she looked smaller and more expensive than I remembered, tailored suit, hair like a plan. She scanned the room, found Daniel, then found me, and for a breath her face said what words could not. You were not supposed to be the problem. I inclined my head a fraction. The way you nod to a neighbor whose dog has dug your roses for years and finally met the fence. Agent Mitchell testified first, methodical, unhurried, a woman setting stones across a river. She explained the pattern, the Friday filings, the temporary shelters that were neither the bank accounts with sunburned addresses. The defense tried to rebrand exploitation as industry-best safeguards. Mitchell did not raise her voice. She raised her receipts. When she finished, the judge's eyebrows had migrated north and decided to live there. Then it was my turn. The clerk swore me in. The oath tasted like cold copper and Sunday school. I told the truth the way I write grocery lists, without adjectives. The December night with the cruiser lights. The brochured doctor with no chart. The advisor with watercolor tie and paper teeth. The way fear tries to get you to sign your name small. The defense attorney smiled with sympathy and tried to make me less than I am. Mrs. Walsh, would you agree that aging can come with confusion? Yes, I said. Like confusing help with theft. He changed tactics. You recorded conversations without telling family members. I told the red light, I said. It listened better. There was a soft ripple in the gallery. You only hear when a room wants to laugh but knows it shouldn't. The judge's mouth fought a grin and lost. Jennifer's attorney kept her off the stand. I did not mind. Perjury is an ugly perfume. Davidson testified, and his voice carried that faint astonishment common to men who discover that consequences are, in fact, not a myth. We intended only to protect assets, he said. Whose assets? The prosecutor asked. He blinked. The client's. And where are they now? He did not answer because the answer wore a bathing suit and a bank seal. After lunch, Dr. Cooper tried gravel in his voice. Authority by texture. The prosecutor read his disciplinary history as if it were a genealogy of bad decisions, then asked him to explain how he'd assessed my cognition on a date we could prove he was at a golf tournament in Arizona. He loosened his tie. The gallery breathed in. Outside, a siren went by, rising and falling, the city's metronome. 3 days later, the jury returned with the efficiency of people who have been insulted. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Wire fraud, conspiracy, attempted exploitation, unlawful guardianship petitions, identity theft. The judge, tired of the performance of contrition, gave Davidson an address with bars and a stretch of calendar with no weekends. Cooper followed, shoulders slumped like a collapsible chair. Jennifer pled to a narrower set and took a sentence that fit in a smaller box. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, she looked at me and tried for tears that never quite found her eyes. I thought I was helping, she said. No, I said in my head, and the thought was so loud I think the court reporter caught it. You thought you were winning. Outside on the steps, microphones waited like open beaks. Agent Mitchell said exactly as much as the public had a right to know and nothing more. I walked past the cameras into a light that felt like something being returned. Daniel fell into step with me, tulips replaced by his hands in his pockets, an old, shy habit. I'm sorry, he said. I know, I said. Now be useful. I will, he said, and we both believed him a little more than yesterday. That evening, the Department of Justice letter landed, gratitude, formal and heavy, and a paragraph that made me sit down. Because of your recordings, testimonies, and insistence on documentation, federal and state partners have identified 187 additional victims and begun recovery of approximately $42 million in assets. The number did not make me giddy. It made me hungry. For every dollar counted. How many stories never learned to ring loud enough? I set the letter on the table and went to the drawer where George's old measuring tape lives. I pulled it out and let it snap. A satisfying little gunshot of competence. We're building, I told the empty kitchen. We're not done. Sunday, at church, Dorothy squeezed my hand hard enough to leave a mark. There are women here who want your class, she whispered. The ones who always sit near the door. We'll sit in the middle, I said, and we'll bring pens. That night I wrote the syllabus for paper teeth. Week 1, who profits when you panic? Week 2, capacity, consent, and the trap of temporary. Week 3, naming the scam without naming yourself small. Week 4, building a circle you can call at 2 a.m. I added an epigraph in the margin. Love is a promise, trust is a ledger. I slept with the window cracked. The maple translated wind to grammar. In the morning, I would buy a stack of clipboards and a box of black pens that write like certainty. In the morning, I would learn the names of women who think their signatures are apologies and teach them to sign like a bell. In the morning, we would stop apologizing for existing. The community room smelled like coffee, lemon cleaner, and nervousness. 15 women, 2 men, and 1 teenage granddaughter who insisted she was just here to drive Nana, sat in a semicircle at plastic tables that had known both VBS crafts and city budget meetings. I wrote paper teeth on the whiteboard and underlined it twice. Welcome, I said. You are not here because you made a mistake. You are here because someone counted on you to be polite. A chuckle, a sniff, the tiny sound hope makes when it peeks through. We started with stories, not the tragic arcs, the moments. The in-sign form that became an emergency. The courtesy call that became a guardianship petition. The daughter who meant well until a boyfriend meant worse. We held each story as if it had a handle and could be set down without breaking the table. Then we moved to the tools. Freeze your credit. Name 2 people you'll call when fear says sign. Ask every professional the dull, specific questions that make liars yawn. Write your medication list in ink and your boundaries in stone. Halfway through, Daniel arrived with a box of pens and a sheepish grin. I brought snacks, he said, holding up oatmeal cookies like a peace offering. A murmur rode around the room, part curiosity, part skepticism, all earned. This is my son, I said. Today he is useful. He swallowed and nodded. Today and the next day, he said. I heard a woman in the 3rd row exhale as if her lungs had been given a chair. After class, the teenage granddaughter asked for an extra handout. For Mom, she said. Eyes too old, voice too light. I put 2 in her hand and added my number with the kind of permission that doesn't feel like pity. By spring, the class had outgrown the room. The library let us use the big meeting space with the good carpet and the bad projector. Agent Mitchell came once and spoke plainly about scams that wear neckties. Detective Lewis taught a session called The Magic Words are Put That in Writing. The mayor sent a proclamation that used the word empowerment twice. We used it 0 times and got back to work. On a wet April afternoon, a man with a neatly folded sadness walked into the bookstore where Michael and I had started meeting on Tuesdays. Mrs. Walsh, he said. My mother was on their list. She died last year. We never found where her money went. I read about you. I just wanted to say, even if we don't get it back, thank you for making the noise. I shook his hand. Grief hates silence, I said. So I try not to offer it any. Michael stocked the new arrivals table with a flourish that made the hardcovers look like a choir. He slid a small brass key from his pocket and set it on the counter. Spare for the side door, he said. You belong here. Belonging is a word I now test before I wear it. I picked up the key and felt its small, proportionate weight. I belong where I'm useful, I said. He smiled. Then you belong in more places than you think. On the morning the DOJ mailed the final restitution check, a sliver returning home, I drove to the park with Gus and sat on the bench where the maple composes letters for anyone who listens. I opened a letter from a woman in Ohio who signed herself Evelyn and wrote in a hand like rain on a sidewalk. My son said I was forgetful. It was his wife's idea. Your story reached us right as the papers arrived. We didn't sign. Thank you for being loud. I folded the letter and tucked it into my notebook under the list called Use. The page is almost full now. Names, numbers, small favors, large refusals. I will start another when this one runs out of room. Good ledgers do. That night, I called Daniel. What are you doing Saturday? I asked. Driving to the county fair, he said. Why? Pick me up. We're buying clipboards. He laughed. That a threat? A beginning, I said. Before bed, I walk the rooms of my house the way wardens walk the perimeter, except my job is not to keep anyone in. It is to keep myself whole. In the hallway, the framed photo of George and me at a county picnic 30 years ago had shifted on its nail. I straightened it, the small domestic liturgy of people who refuse to call disorder fate. In the mirror, I caught my own eye and startled as I always do when I expect a gentler person and find the woman who learned to sharpen her name. You did not become mean, I told her. You became exact. Out the window. The city turned on its lights like 1,000 tiny promises. Somewhere, a siren proved that emergencies can be handled. Somewhere, a woman like me wrote her name large enough to see it again. I turned off the lamp and left the window cracked so the wind could finish its sentence. My house settled. My ledger closed. My teeth, paper and otherwise, were sharp. In the morning, I would teach again. In the morning, we would pass out pens. In the morning, we would practice saying the magic words. Put that in writing. And then we would, together,